Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to in-person meeting. It's kind of a nice thing to have after 3 months of virtual meetings. First order of business is disclosure of pecuniary interest and general nature thereof.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you. D2, the petition for drainage for Geese Break and petition for drainage for the Mulwick Dike Soil.
Okay, thanks, Mark. So noted. The minutes from February 3rd, was there any errors or omissions? Mover and seconder for the minutes then, please. Mover. Lewis, all in favor? All right, Jeff, Emergency Services, you're up.
Your Worship, how are you tonight, everyone? Good to see us back. Both my reports today are, one is just the January review of services, which is pretty straightforward. The second one being the radio dispatch agreement with the town of Tillsonburg for our county dispatch service. So our dispatch was, agreement ended on January 22nd. The renewal was right here. The prices have stayed pretty steady with their service. Actually went down a little bit just with the cost. They are enhancing their system to the new generation 911, which they anticipated a cost, the split between all their service providers of over around $100,000. But they have been given a grant or approval for a grant from the province for 2/3 of that coverage. So that'll be passed along to all the municipalities as well. Other than that, the service is basically going to stay the same with the county for the next 5 years.
Okay. Thanks, Jeff. And I must put in, Jeff, that the flooding down in Port Bruce, I've had a lot of positive comments from the firefighters and how they act in professional and very, very kind manner to all the residents and getting them out and making sure they were safe and sound. And so we passed that on, that they just did a great job and as the best they could under those circumstances. So certainly everyone is appreciative of the fire departments in that rescue.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor.
Eric, go ahead.
Yeah, I was down there too and through Catfish Creek and I heard a lot of compliments too about how well they did, and I'm watching them with that little dinghy evacuating people and all that. But apparently you were down there as well, taking people to the shelter or a friend's place or something like that. So it's nice to thank the fire department, but I think in all fairness, you deserve a big thank you too for all you did.
Oh, thanks, Rick. Appreciate that.
Thank you.
Questions for Jeff on the emergency services activity report for January? Mover and seconder for that report then. Serna, Glinski, all in favor? Carried. Any questions for Jeff on the renewing the communication agreement with the town of Tillsonburg? Mover and seconder for that one then, please. Winder, Jaguar, all in favor? Carried. You're dealing with the next one, Matt?
Correct. Yes, good evening, Worship and Council. This first report relates to a drainage petition the township received by a landowner on Nova Scotia line to address a condition of severance requiring the applicant to provide a legal and adequate drainage outlet for said severance. So this petition relates to a new branch drain to be considered with an approximate length of 30 meters to the nearest outlet, which is shown in the sketch included in the staff report. So as required under the Drainage Act, when a petition is received, council is to appoint an engineer to prepare the requisite engineer's report, and accordingly staff are recommending Speed Associates be appointed to investigate this petition.
Okay, thanks, Matt. Questions for Matt on this report? Mover and second, report number PW 2210, entitled Petition for Drainage Giesbrecht be received, that George Varican, of professional engineer of Streets Associates, be appointed to prepare an engineer's report for the Giesbrecht petition. Mover, Lewis, all in favor? Carried. And the next petition for drainage, Matt?
Yes, this report again relates to a drainage petition township received by two landowners for lands west of Pigram Road between Lions Line and Century Line for consideration of a new municipal drain of approximately 2 kilometers in length. So again, as required under the act, when a petition is received, council is to appoint an engineer, and staff are recommending Street Associates be appointed to investigate this petition as well.
Okay, thanks, Matt. Questions from Matt on this petition? Seeing none. Mover and second, report number PW 2211, entitled Petition for Drainage, Millwick and Dykeshorn be received, that Mike DeVos, professional engineer of Streets Associate, be appointed to prepare an engineer's report for the Millwick Dykeshorn petition. Cerna and Glinsky, all in favor? Carried. Cecil, can you just let Mark know that we're ready to come back in? All right, Matt, year-end report.
For these next two reports, we have Ryan DeSutter on video conference with us to present the next two.
Hey, Ryan.
Good evening. How are you guys tonight?
Good, good.
Good. Thank you, your worship and members of council, for the opportunity to speak to you tonight. I will be doing the next two reports for your consideration. The first report is the 2021 Roads Department Activity Review. Overall, 2021 was a busy year for the Roads Department. We had many scheduled and unplanned projects completed throughout the year. Work was typically balanced pretty equally between the typical Roads Department operations and the capital road reconstruction program, specifically on Pressy Line. I included many of the details in the report, and I'd be happy to answer any questions that council may have.
Okay, thank you, Ryan. Questions for Ryan on the year-end report? Mover and seconder, report number PW 2214, entitled Road Department 2021 year-end report be received. Jaguar and Lewis, all in favor? Carried. And the Crossley Hunters speed concerns.
Yes, thank you, your worship.
Just a minute,
Worship.
Ryan. I don't know. I don't know who to comment. We have 350 pages of data. When I looked at this agenda, I said, holy mackerel. Even Dominique's saying enough is enough. I suggest the next time that we have the report, and if someone wants the data, they can ask for the data, but I don't think we need 350 pages of data going forward. So just a comment.
Okay. No, definitely noted. I know in some of the past speed reports, there had been some questions about the backup data and the raw data collected. So we thought we'd include it this time, but it is excessive, and just a general summary would probably be a better option for the future. And we could provide the raw data if required. This final report obviously is for the Crossley Hunter Line speed concerns. As council will recall, at a meeting in November of 2021, speed concerns were raised by local residents in the Crossley Hunter Line and Dorchester Road area. Following the meeting, staff completed a review of the area, including the current and past speed and volume analysis for the area, geometrical conditions of the roadway, and the density and of the residential properties in the area. With respect to setting speed limits on municipal roadways, there are two key technical aspects that local municipalities typically consider. The first one being whether the density of the development area meets the Highway Traffic Act criteria for a built-up area, and or number two, whether the geometric features of the roadway meet the speed criteria identified in the Ministry of Transportation's Geometric Design Manual. In respect to this location, neither one of those criteria are met in relation to a speed reduction. Overall, the traffic data collected does show that the speed and volume of traffic are in line with other Class 4 rural collector roads in the area, and staff would recommend leaving the speed limit at its current condition. At this time, I'd be welcome any questions that council may have.
Okay, thank you, Ryan. Questions for Ryan on Crossley Hunter? Mark?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor, and just want to thank whoever made the report up. It's a lot of work, but it's a lot of information too. But I think what I take from some of the report is most people are going over the speed limit. Is that correct?
You know, yes, in general, the majority of the people are speeding. And typically that is due to the overall condition of the road. It is a wide open road. It's built for rural transportation. And unfortunately, the better our road conditions are, the higher the speed of traffic typically travels on it. So it's very common on all of our roads, and this one is no different than any of the others.
Right, I agree with that. The corner there, I don't like the corner at all. I travel that road quite a bit in Dorchester and Crosley. That corner's not good visibility either way, in my opinion. Like if you got farm machinery, it's just hard to see. There's some vegetation things there and trees planted in the hills. But we did do Mapleton Line. We brought it down to 60, and we know no one's ever going to do 60. But it brought it down from 120 to maybe 80, and I think that's what they're looking for in Crossley Hunter. My opinion, I'd like to see it at 60 because I think it warrants it. I know the report doesn't and the speed doesn't, but sometimes what's good on paper isn't good in real life. And I think it's not that big a deal to put that one down to 60. There's enough homes there. I think it warrants it, but that's my opinion. Thank you.
Rick?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. My point is a delegation from that Crossy Hunter line came in and made a pretty detailed, pretty decent report. And I don't see why we can't give them what they're asking for. And it's like Councillor Widner said, if the speed limit's 80, people do 90. If the speed limit's 60, they might do 70. So, because again, too, and I've said this many a time, it doesn't matter what the speed limit is if you don't have enforcement. Okay? But I can't see a problem giving these people what they ask for. And hopefully that helps correct the situation a little bit. Because when you tell me that most people are speeding on a road, we have a problem. And to say leave it alone, I don't agree with that at all. It's my comment.
Jess, did you have a question?
Microphone.
Yeah, there. Make a comment and wondering why there isn't more patrol because as everybody's saying, if you put it down to 60, they're still going to go 80, so that's 20 over. Why don't we get more patrols out there? And I don't mean a patrol to be there full time, but patrols are going to make the difference. People get caught, they'll slow down. That's my point on it. Thank you.
Scott?
Yeah, through you, your worship. Being accessible to the public on a regular basis, I got to put it out there that I have heard, unfortunately, the negative end of things, and that people say that if we keep slowing down our municipality, we're going to end up moving backwards soon. And yeah, I've heard it several times, and so I have to be the voice that says, there's other people out there saying that you can post whatever you want, they're still going to speed, they still do speed, and we have the absence of enforcement. So put it to what you want, but it's still, unfortunately, they're saying that we're not going to have a road anywhere in our municipality that's 80 kilometers an hour. Doing business is hard to do when you're a delivery person and you're trying to get your job done as efficiently as you can, and yet now your license is very dependent to your job, and now you have to slow down in the zones that really they see no, and they're on the road every day, and they see no reason to it. So I have to be that voice that says, be careful on how much you slow things down.
Okay, thanks, Scott. Any other comments? There's a recommendation to leave the status quo. I guess we'll see where that recommendation goes, so. Mover and second, report number PW 2215 entitled Crossley Hunter Speak Concerns Be Received. Drinsky. Moore, all in favor? Opposed? Carried.
Mr. Mayor, may I clarify? So if the report is being received, are we passing a resolution at the same time to maintain the status quo?
That's what Ryan has suggested, that the status quo is what he is suggesting. And so when I counted heads, I counted 4 in favor and 3 opposed.
Okay, and I honestly, I will say, just as a point of order, I was trying to clarify before the vote, so my apologies for that. I would like to request to retake the vote because I understood that receiving the report was going to be treated separately from accepting the status quo. My apologies.
All right, Adam, there's a
My
procedure here.
apologies.
The motion has been duly moved, second, and passed. What's the status?
Through you, Your Worship, I may defer to our clerk for that.
Okay, so I'll leave it up to the mover and seconder. You want to reopen? Max?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I misunderstood too. I withdraw my yes vote to that one. I still will second the motion.
Okay,
Recorded vote too, maybe? It's so confusing.
all right, so actually, we need, if it's other than what the recommendation is, we need a motion. So if you want to move it down to 60, then put that motion forward.
Yeah, we can do that. We'll make a motion that we reduce the speed limit to 60 kilometers in the zone out there that's been identified.
Okay, so moved by Winder, second by Mover. All those in favor? Motion carried.
Mr. Mayor, we may need to vote on the other motion that was on the table, even if it's to vote it down and then have a secondary motion, just because it was still on the floor.
Well, that one actually was received and voted on. We have a second motion.
Okay, as
that-
long as receiving doesn't include the status quo. Okay.
The second motion overrided the first motion.
Okay.
Okay, who's, Adam? Who's doing the, oh, there he is, okay. Hey, Adam. Adam, are you ready for the next motion?
I am. We're doing the next report?
Yeah, we're doing the next report on
Okay. Thank you,
tertiary
Mr.
water
Mayor.
and
This is,
sewer system.
yep. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is a report recommending the single sourcing of Watson and Associates to complete the township's 2022 water and sewer rate study as approved in the 2022 water and sewer budgets. My written report was a little light on details, so I prepared a statement explaining why I'm seeking a non-competitive purchasing process for this particular project. Excuse me. Section 5.2 of the township procurement policy lists conditions where a non-competitive process can be used, specifically subsection D, need for compatibility with goods and services previously acquired, and subsection H, the required goods and services are to be supplied by a particular bidder proponent having special knowledge, skills, or expertise or experience. In my opinion, the township's 2022 rate study project satisfies these requirements. The process of preparing a rate study requires two things, which Watsons can provide that others cannot at this time: continuity from prior studies and integration with the township's existing financial planning documents. Watson completed the last set of studies and can speak to underlying assumptions that went into its creation. Often a municipality will have staff that have worked on prior studies and therefore have an understanding of where perhaps improvements could be made or the logic behind certain elements or strategies of the study that aren't specifically written into the actual documents. Due to turnover, no such knowledge currently exists on staff. It exists with Watson, so they have special experience and can be used to help assess the outcomes of the last rate study to make improvements to the new one. The consulting firm, aside from Watson's, would also have to take the time to read and understand the township's current set of financial planning documents that will integrate into the rate study. Even if they were not to pass on the cost of this down to the township, the process would inevitably take more time and be much less efficient. Watson is offering an aggressive timeline because they know what's involved and they know our systems, they know our data already. Watson's is also preparing the primary waterboard and secondary waterboard rate studies. The outcomes of these studies are required for the water portion of our consolidated study because we purchase water from those systems. So there's value in using a consultant who can prepare the upstream rate studies if the goal is to get the rate study, the township's rate study to council prior to charging 2023's rates. Further, if approved, the project will be around 14,000 under budget, while also equipping the township with a quality strategic document that will guide the next decade of rate recommendations. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Adam. Questions for Adam on the study contract? Mover and seconder, report number FIN 2203 entitled Rate Study Contract Award be received, and the contracting of professional consulting services to undertake the Township of Malahide tertiary water and sewer system rate study be permitted as a single source procurement. And that Watson Associates economists be awarded the service contract for the Township of Malahide tertiary water and sewer system rate study in the amount of $25,620 plus taxes. Mover and seconder, Chair, Cerna, all in favor? Opposed? Carried. Budget meeting?
Yeah, so we're looking to move the third budget meeting date, which was originally scheduled for April 12th. Since that time, the Goods Roads conference got moved and it's now in person, so it's conflicting with that last budget committee date. The proposal in my report is to move it from the 12th to the 4th. I've since been notified that the 4th actually poses a problem if we plan to have the meeting in MCP because Taekwondo is held during that time. So instead, I would actually request that we move it to April 5th instead of April 4th, as indicated on the report. Thank you.
Okay, is everybody filling that in their calendars to make sure that there's no issues? Everybody's good with all those dates? Okay, so on the report number FIN 2204 entitled Revised 2022 Budget, committee schedule be received. The following meeting schedule for the Budget Committee for 2022 budget deliberations be approved. Tuesday, March 15th at 22 at 7. Tuesday, March 29th, 22 at 7. Monday, April 4th, 22 at 7. 5th? Oh, okay. I better move my calendar over because I just put down the 4th. section on accessibility.
Yes, through your worship. This is one of a few reports that you'll be seeing coming from myself regarding the election. This report is a standard elections report addressing accessibility for the election. The plan will be posted to our website and will provide a guideline to assure accessibility is being met throughout the election period. A follow-up report is required by the Municipal Elections Act and will be presented after the election. I can answer any questions if there are any.
Questions for Allison?
Just one question. On page 428, number 6, in actions, part 3, voter lists available electronic format. Will that also be available in hard copy?
Sorry, you said it was number 6.
Yeah, page 428, number 6. Part 3.
The voters list.
Yeah.
It can be if it's requested, but it will be in a digital format otherwise.
But it'll be available if I
If
want it.
requested by the candidate, yes, it will be made in a hard copy.
Okay, thank you. Because I think I'm not supposed to carry the township's iPad around when I'm going from house to house, and my computer is just a little too big to sling over my back, so.
That's correct.
So I would need the hard copy, please, and thank you.
Okay.
Any other questions for Allison on the accessibility plan? No. Any other questions on the accessibility plan? Seeing done. Mover and seconder, report number clerk 2202 entitled Pre-Election Accessibility Plan regarding the accessibility for the 2022 municipal and school board elections be received. Mover and seconder, Winder, Cerna, all in favor? Next one, Allison.
So this is another report for the use of corporate resources for election purposes. It's a legislative requirement by the Elections Act. It sets out a guideline for both candidates and the corporation in terms of the procedures to be followed in regards to municipal resources during the election period. If there's any questions, I can be happy to help.
Questions for Allison on this one?
Mr. Mayor,
Dominic?
thank you. Just a quick question. So does this mean that this is new, or this is modified from the last one, or it's just that we have to pass it every single time? Okay.
Yes, so it's not new, it's just done every election period, yeah.
Any other questions for Allison? Jess?
Mayor Manel, are we going to have I assume we'll be opened up a little more than we are now, and are we going to have a presentation by someone from the elections board or wherever it comes from?
Yeah, yes, through your worship, that is just getting planned right now with the town of Elmer and the municipality of Bayham, and we are hoping we found a speaker that will do that in the mid-April.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Mover and seconder, report number clerk 2203 entitled Use of Corporate Resources for Election Purposes be received. The attached policy regarding the use of corporate resources for election purposes be adopted. Mover and Galinsky, all in favor? Okay, council remuneration, you're doing that as well, Allison?
Yes, so through your worship, staff are bringing forward this component of a resolution for council direction on whether to keep the current annual pay structure as established or to increase all council salaries by an additional $500 in 2023. There has been an amendment to the report that has been provided to council for review as the annual percentage increase was not accounted for in the original options. I can answer any questions if there are any.
Okay, thanks, Allison. Questions or comments for Allison? Rick?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I thought when we did our last council remuneration review, that was supposed to happen automatically, that before the election, a raise was to be put in place to entice candidates to run. Now we have to vote on it?
Well, I'm going to put that that over to Allison. Obviously, it wasn't the case.
So within the bylaw that was presented, there was the resolution that we bring back. It states, and that on or about May 1st, 2022, the council be requested to consider increasing all annual council salaries by an additional 500 to come into effect on January 1st, 2023. It being pointed out that the intent of such salary increase is to provide additional incentive for candidates to run for council in the fall of 2022.
Thank you. And may I suggest another $500 for the gas rebate? Because the way it's going, we're, even another $500, we're probably gonna be another $500 behind. Because that's getting crazy.
We have two options before us, and there's option one to have the status quo, or option two to increase it for $500 for 2023. And I think $500 would, for 2023 is probably acceptable in my opinion, but I'll leave it up to the rest of council what their opinion. This is a recommendation by the committee as well. So option two, everybody's,
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, I was just going to offer a comment that, yes, we did go through the trouble of asking a committee to consider this very carefully and make recommendations. So I think it somewhat behooves us to go ahead with the recommendation. And I think it is also, it is not about this council, it is for the next council. So I think it's a fair request.
okay, so Bover and Sailor, report number clerk 2204 entitled 2022 council remuneration be received. Council provided direction to staff in the terms of increasing council salary in 2023, which is option number 2. Mover and seconder. Winder and Jagger, all in favor? Carried. Okay, the building and planning, Adam, you're doing the first one on D'Angelo?
Yes, thank you, Your Worship. So this is a deeming bylaw. Council has seen one of these last year in Port Bruce, and what it does is essentially removes the plan of subdivision status from lots, essentially merging them together, consolidating them rather. This was identified through the severance process. So the applicants here desire a severance to split this property into 2 parcels. It was known through the review process through the county that there was indeed 5 lots here from an original plan of subdivision. It being noted by the county that Township Council needs to pass a deeming bylaw. So this is in front of Council this evening so that it can go back to the Land Division Committee. I do note, and I thank Councillor Moore for bringing this to my attention. On the explanatory note of the bylaw, I've got to carry forward from the last time Council considered a deeming bylaw to so it references that Port Bruce address. It's been corrected. So there's that. One other item in the report, and this is, I'm going to leave this for Council to add a resolution if it deems appropriate. If the Land Division Committee considers this severance, another condition would be the requirement for a development agreement. Council heard this recommendation when I presented Council the report, the planning report for the severance itself. If Council recalls, this will be creating a lot where an existing accessory structure will be retained on the newly severed lot. So that's not permitted in the zoning bylaw. There's to be accessory. So it's rather a straightforward condition. But I think if Council deems fit to do so, it can add that additional clause to the resolution that allows the passing of a bylaw to allow the mayor and clerk to sign a development agreement. And that would be another, as I just mentioned, a condition satisfied when this goes back to the Land Division Committee. It'll save time for the applicant and council in the future.
Okay, thanks, Adam. Questions for Adam on this? Jess?
Mayor Manel, is there a size limit that you shouldn't be going over? I don't know how big these individual lots are right now, but if you're looking at 2.5 of them going into one, does that interfere with the Land Division's ruling as far as the size of the lot, what it can be?
Through your worship, that's a valid point. Our zoning bylaws and official plan don't necessarily speak to maximum lot sizes, they do speak to minimum. I think general good planning practices would try to encourage maximum lot sizes so that we could rather use land within urban settlement areas more efficiently. But in the absence of such policies or regulations in our official plan and zoning bylaw, there's really no requirements to regulate. And what we do have is a rather oversized property being reduced down to 2. So we're certainly moving in the right direction.
Just one more comment, if I may.
Is your mic on, Jeff?
Yeah, it was. Land Division isn't going to complain about this being too large for 2 separate lots as compared to what was passed before, 5 lots.
Through you, Your Worship, I can't speak for the Land Division Committee. I don't believe that they will complain, but I will remind Council that the severance application itself was already considered by Council about dealing with the size and the appropriateness of the lots being created.
Just a comment, Jeff. Usually they're not concerned about too large a lot. They're very much concerned about too small a lot.
Well, if I may, Mayor Manel, I can remember on Springwater Road, there was a person that was attempting to sever our lot to contain a house and barn and whatever else, and they had to come back with a plan that would use less land than what they were prepared to see go into a lot.
And they are concerned about taking agricultural land out of use. So, but in the village, it's a little bit different.
Thank you.
Okay. Rick?
I think what Councillor Glinski's talking about is on Rogers Road, the old Zebratavich's farm. And if you can remember, there was a kill yard there. There was stick kills
yeah.
and stuff. And he had to get rid of the kill yard and downsize the lot because what he wanted to sever was too big. And I know what you're talking about. So they do worry about a lot being too big, but we're talking there was acres as opposed to what you see here.
If I may continue, the lot that I was thinking about was north of Ron McNeil line. And it was a fairly large lot and they had to reduce the size of it. I'm just trying to maybe head off a problem. It doesn't matter to me which way it goes, as long as it goes through and there isn't a problem with it.
Okay. Any other questions for Adam on this on D'Angelo proposal? None. Mover and seconder, report number DS 2210, entitled Request for a Deeming Bylaw of Wendy D'Angelo be received. And the council approved bylaw number 2209, which will deem lots 105 through 110 on Plan 78, known as 11789 Superior Street, west side of Superior Street in the village of Springfield, not be a plan of subdivision.
Through you, Your Worship, just before council votes is maybe give consideration to the added resolution that I stated in my report on page 442 about the development agreement. Oh, okay.
So we'll address that later on. Okay, so Moore and Glinski, all in favor? And the next one is the Giesbrecht.
Thank you, Your Worship. So earlier tonight, council considered one condition for this severance in Copenhagen. One of the other conditions requires a development agreement to ensure that it's an existing barn does indeed get converted into a dwelling because it's in a residential area. So nothing further to add to my report.
Questions for Adam on this one? Mover and seconder, report number DS 2211, entitled Application for a Development Agreement as for the consent to sever of Anna and Isaac Giesrick be received. Prepared development agreement related to property located at Part Lot 11, Concession 1, known as 49485 Nova Scotia Line, in the hamlet of Copenhagen, be supported for the reasons set out in this report. And council passed bylaw number 22-11, being a bylaw to authorize the execution of development agreement with Anna and Isaac Giesbrecht pursuant to section 51 and 53 of the Planning Act, RSO 1990, and separate application number E73-21. Mover and seconder, Lewis and Jager, all in favor? Carried. You doing the next one, Adam, on the vaccination policy?
Yes, thanks, Your Worship. There's nothing further to add to this report, but one item I do want to highlight, that notwithstanding provincial directives, Dr. Locke is still recommending that due to case numbers here in this region, that organizations such as ours postpone the lifting of such requirements such as vaccine policies until April 1st.
Questions for Adam? Scott?
Through you, Your Worship, to Adam, on C, any new hires from municipality must be fully vaccinated. Is that something that'll be, we're gonna stick with, you think, or is that something that's gonna get changed also when the new?
Through you, Your Worship. So the policy that council adopted earlier requires that any new hires for the municipality must be fully vaccinated. The recommendation that policy would be lifted entirely. So that requirement would be gone in addition with all other requirements, right back to pre-COVID municipal requirements for new hires.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Adam? Hopefully we've rounded the corner on COVID, so maybe this is a good start. Mover and seconder, report number HR 2202, entitled Workplace COVID-19 Vaccination Policy to be updated, be received. The workplace COVID-19 vaccination verification policy be declared redundant effective April 1st, 2022. Serta and Lewis, all in favor? Carried. Office reopening.
Thank you. So similar to the previous report, it's recommending that as of April 1st, and based on Dr. Locke's recommendations for this area, we transition to bringing all staff back into the workplace as we had pre-COVID as of April 1st, 2022. So the second recommendation there is staff, council gives staff direction. So what we're generally seeking is come April 1st, all staff are required to be back working in the office.
Questions for Adam?
One
Tony?
question, Mr. Mayor, through you. So just to clarify, do you still feel that with everyone in the office, you can still provide the required space and other safety protocols?
Yes, through you, Your Worship. I think we'll still be dealing with masking and social distancing and spacing where we can. I think the report states that if there's ever a meeting or a gathering of employees where we're within that, we would require masking. But yes, we believe it'll be safe come April 1st.
Any other questions for Adam? Mover and seconder, report number HR 2203, entitled Post-COVID-19 Office Reopening be received. Municipal staff be provided with direction regarding the plan for the Malahide office to reopen to the public and staff to return to their office from remote working arrangements as outlined in this report. Moore and Glinski, all in favor? Carried. And you're going to give an update on Port Bruce?
Thank you, Your Worship. Yes, so as council recalls, our February 17th council meeting was canceled due to the flooding event in Port Bruce. So what I felt important to do is both for council and the public, is give an update, a snapshot in time of where we're at, what occurred, how things were dealt with, and give a sort of a detailed summary of how certain matters. It was certainly, I do appreciate the all hands on deck approach with our stakeholders and everyone else involved in the event, and which continues with the recovery. So one item I do want to touch on is myself and Chief Spoor did attend the village with provincial representatives with regards to a disaster recovery assistance program for Ontarians. That will hopefully, it's up to the minister to activate such program. I'm hopeful that the minister deems it appropriate to activate, but that'll be one additional tool for impacted residents to assist them in recovering from the flood event. Certainly, it's not over. There's going to be a lot of discussions and review of what went well, what we can improve upon, but in general, I think it was certainly Mother Nature's event where the ice was quite thick, and what was going to happen regardless of the ice breaking at the pier. So I will leave it there, and if there's any questions or comments from councilors, I can try and answer.
Okay, thanks, Adam. Jeff, can you give us an update or a little more picture on the fire pumper and the water and the engine and so on? How that all occurred?
So the fire pump itself was at the Port Bruce for the duration of the event. During the evening hours of the first day of the flood, the truck went back to the hall, and as it came back, it was parked on the side of the road while we're doing our last recovery of a patient there. While it was sitting there, it quit, just at an idle. We had the vehicle towed back to the fire hall, and Bill Arthur had come out the next day to look at it. There was some water in the fuel. He cleaned out the tank twice and changed fuel filters. Got it running, but it wasn't running right. Computer was showing nothing that was wrong with it that he could see. He said that we could have a couple options, and the options would be that he could start throwing parts at it and just guessing, or maybe take it to the dealership and start the process of insurance claim. The insurance claim, regardless, would be deductible. We would have to pay the township's deductible if needed be the claim. So we have the vehicle at Carrier Truck Centers in Brantford at this time. They have diagnosed so far that the injectors need to be replaced. Hopefully the injectors will fix the problem. 3 of the injectors were not working, so it was not running on 3 of the cylinders. They were replacing all 6 of those at first. Then they'll go from that status past that. Other than that, they can't show of any other further damages to the truck itself, so.
Okay,
It's
thanks, Jeff.
sort of a wait and see for the pricing, but right now it's just a matter of 6 injectors, so that what they're gonna try. They think that no other serious engine damage has occurred at this time, so.
Okay, good. Questions for either Adam or Jeff on Scott?
Through your worship, Adam. Yeah, I heard a lot about Port Bruce, but a lot of good. Like there was a lot of positive. There was a lot of people very thankful. A lot of people thought that a lot of people stepped up. Procedures were done right, you know. So I want to make sure that gets definitely passed on. And also in conversation lately, if maybe we couldn't direct staff to look and see if there is a company or someone out there that can look at, we can't be the only ones with this issue and this kind of setup, and so for flood allegation and stuff, and just see if there's a company out there that does it. And then of course, we're gonna ask to see if you can find the financing for it also from the government, provincial level maybe. But just a little direction, just to see if we can learn from it, go forward from it. And I think there's always room for improvement, but yet, no, kudos to everybody. I've been through there for one, I've lived through one there, helped through one, and you guys did a top-notch job, so. Yeah, from the residents, I'm sure they're saying thank you very much for what they've done and what you're doing now. Because there's a lot going on behind the scenes that people sort of think, oh, they're not doing anything right now. Well, I've made sure that those inquiring minds have been well educated that there's a lot going on behind the scenes, so Thank you for what you do.
Thanks, Ken. Rick?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you to Councillor Scott Lewis. I think everybody knows what the problem is down there, but it's a very difficult one to fix. And it's just the fact of the width of the creek, so it comes around the bend, and then it hits Waterboard Bay, and it widens out. So all that push and energy dissipates, and that's where you get your blockage. And it just, it holds it back, and I don't know how else to fix that. I have no idea, but I think we know, I don't know if we need to hire a professional. We've got people, well, at Catfish Creek, our water technician, he's the one that told me that that's what the problem is. How do you fix it? I have no idea. So I have to agree, though, I was down there and with Dusty, who's our new general manager, and it was a mess. The water was bad. We were trying to drive from one spot to the other, garbage floating all over the place. We made Jeff go first just in case there was a problem. But when I watched everybody, like I said, they did a fantastic job. And I know we're trying to talk to the ratepayers and see what's going on. And we'll just go from there. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Dominic?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, I certainly would be in favor of a third-party study of some kind, because I think when something fairly traumatic like that happens, it's about trust, and it's about feeling assured that everything that could be done is done, and that we don't have any blind spots of any kind. And so if there's any way we can access funds, perhaps through the recovery program, to get that extra assurance and, an extra set of eyes and to complement the expertise of Catfish Creek, because I think right now we are hearing a lot of different ideas. And well, what about this? And what about that? And why can't we do this? And I think to get an expert response to sort of sort all of this and all of the different ideas would be very useful and a good tool to kind of bring some closure to the conversation.
Okay, thanks, Dominic. In fact, Adam, maybe you can expand. Adam and I have been in conversation when they had the disaster relief people down looking at the cottages, and certainly we're hoping to get funding for that as well. There was also an option for mitigation in the future, in which we can probably get funding for. But Adam, will let you expand on that.
Yes, thank you, Your Worship. So I've been dealing with, he works for the provincial government. He's a community emergency management coordinator, so that it's similar to what the county has. So he was down in Port Bruce with Jeff and I and a couple others assessing for the DRAO program. That's the Disaster Relief Assistance for Ontarians. So these will help the homeowners. In our conversations, we were down there all day. He mentioned that he will make an inquiry about there is provincial funding available for municipalities such as ours for any sort of disaster mitigation, including flooding. So as information, I think these ideas are noted, and I can certainly take those, but I will come back to council if council deems that appropriate with information I can obtain with regards to funding opportunities and how that process may unfold. But I do like the idea of complementing the existing professionals that we have at Catfish Creek and with staff and councillors here. I might not be, but there's many people experienced with what's happened in Port Bruce. But having a third set of eyes, I think, may be wise given what's happened.
Okay, thanks, Adam. Any other questions for Adam? Mover and seconder report number CAO-2202 entitled Port Bruce Flooding, February 17th and 18th, 2022. Updated report be received. Lewis, Jagger, all in favor? Well, next we got committees and outside boards. There's one from the Long Point and one from the Complex. Any comments on either one of those meetings? Mover and seconder, the following reports of committee and outside boards being noted and filed, one for the Long Point and one for the complex. Mover and Glinsky, or did you have a question, Jess?
I have a question, Mayor Manel. Both of those are together, and we might want to pass one and not pass the other. So I think I fought this battle many years ago where everything is lumped into one motion, and that just.
If you're talking about the budget, I think that comes up later on there. The East Elgin Community Budget comes up under other business.
Okay, but on my piece of paper here, it says Long Point Regional Conservation Authority Board of Directors minutes, and right below it, East Elgin Community Complex Board of Management minutes for April 9th. They're together. Should they be together, or?
Well, we could separate them, but these are just, if there's any errors or omissions on the report from the meeting, if that's what happened in the meeting, then there's no issues. But if there's something that was reported here that is an error, then I think we need to make a point of that. So is there an error or because I know there's issues with the budget.
That's correct. There's issues with the budget.
Okay, then the budget comes up later on. This is just reporting from what happened at the meeting. But if you want to separate them, we can. Okay, we'll do one at a time. Any issues on the Long Point? Mover and seconder for the Long Point. Mover and Widner, all in favor? Carried. Any issues on the complex, on the meeting itself? Mover and seconder with that. Mover, Lewis, all in favor? Opposed? Carried. Correspondence, there is 8 items of correspondence. Anyone wish to make comment? Support? Mark?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to do number 8, Municipality of Shania, I guess it's called. Resolution supporting the town of Bracebridge's motion regarding joint and several liability reform, addressing the priority for provincial action on the growing issue of municipal liability and insurance costs. I think looking at our budget, insurance has gone up maybe 20% again this year. So it certainly has to be looked at. Thank you.
Rick, did you have a?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I like number 2, requesting more federal, provincial government, more funding for support for infrastructural projects.
I don't think anybody can argue with that, Rick.
You gotta try.
Anything else? We're looking at supporting number 2 and number 8 and receiving the file of the balance. Mover and seconder with that then, please. Chair, Winder, all in favor? Carried. Okay, now we're into, you had a question on the East Elgin Community Complex budget, Chester.
Yes, I didn't think we had enough opportunity to discuss what might be cut from that budget. One item that pops out at me right away is, I believe, I don't have the number in front of me, but I believe it was $55,000 for engineering of the parking lot. That should almost be enough to pave half of it, not just engineer it. That's where I'm coming from.
Okay, all right, well, I don't know if you paved the driveway lately, Chester, but it's not cheap. Rick?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. First of all, I'd like to apologize. I was absent for that meeting. I was a little tired that afternoon, laid down for a nap, and by the time I woke up, I knew damn well the meeting was over. So, but I do have a few things that I've heard, read, and whatever. One is the parking lot, $600,000 to do it. Like, it's not that old. That building is not that old. I think it's 18 years. And we fixed the parking lot before. Now we gotta redo the whole thing. And it just, everything in that building seems to just go to pot so quickly. And I don't know when the parking lot was done out here, but we don't seem to have the problems here that they have there. What's that? 2010. So that's, it's only a 6-year difference. But anyways, there's that, and then there's the fact of that buying a new ice resurfacing machine. People look at a machine and they say it has so many hours on it, and it's time to change it out. But who, and I'd like to see this, like, who did the report on that? Like, who went over that thing with a fine-tooth comb and said, oh, well, by the time you fix this, that, next thing, you're money ahead to buy a new one. Like, if it's got an auger on it. Well, if the auger's dull, do you change out the machine because you got a dull auger, or you buy a new auger and stick in there? And I don't think you can go by the hours. I have a tractor at home that I figured out the other day is 68 years old. And I can take anybody in this room now, it's parked in Mom's kill yard, and sit on it and fire it up, and we can go for a ride. And the thing is 68 years old. If it had an hour meter on it, that thing has spun around 1,000 times, at least. So I just don't like the idea that I question, did we have a professional look at that machine and say, yep, that thing's garbage and you better get a new one? Or did they just look at the hour gauge and say, oh, geez, it's got 4,000 hours on it, we better get a new one? And the problem is, when you look at it, and I think this year, and somebody can correct me, where's our treasurer? Matters not, but we're running a deficit again. And I think it's around $600,000. Now, next year, they want to put another $600,000 to a parking lot. Well, 6 and 6 is 12, right? Am I right in my math? So you're talking $1.2 million going backward. We can't afford that from a building that costs us $600,000 deficit every year. We can't afford a brand new machine that costs us that. That it's had to have new heating, new lights, new tile pads, you name it, new end boards. And it's just somewhere along the line, we got to stop. We got to start saving some money somewhere. So we can get an extra couple of years out of this machine, let's do it. If we can cold patch the parking lot, let's do it. You can't make this thing look so perfect. Everything's got to be brand new. And then you turn around and it's choking you to death. It absolutely doesn't make any sense to me whatsoever. And I'd have said this if I was at the meeting. But I was sleeping.
I know our treasurer, Adam, has had concern that we're not prepared to budget for this in 2022 and 2023. Obviously, we need more time to accommodate this. So Adam has concerns. In fact, Adam, do you have any comments?
Through you, Mr. Mayor. As you said, our capital program at the EECC was $25,000 annually for a number of years, and all of a sudden, I think they've taken a look at that program and ratcheted up significantly, but in doing so, haven't really considered the financial impacts to both municipalities, but certainly to Malahide. I think the proposed capital plan in 2022 was 188,000. That has been cut, I think, at that last meeting, but then 2023 is 853,000. So 25,000 in 2021, and then all of a sudden we're at 853,000 in 2023. Yeah, it has the potential to divert some of our funds that were going to be used for some of our other projects. So I think our discontent in the long-term forecast of the EEC is well merited.
Rick?
Mr. Mayor, thank you. You also have to realize the amount of people that use this. If you don't skate, you don't need to go there. And when they try, we've tried different things since I've been on council. And the big thing was pickleball. You get 15 people come up for pickleball. Then they were going to do shuffleboard. Well, you got another 12 there. And that's it. We've tried everything. The only thing that could have made money was putting the library there, and nobody liked that idea. So I have to agree, when you start looking at spending $800,000, and it is only for a small percentage of the population of both Elmer and Malahide, you have to come up with a different plan. And I think to stretch every dollar, like I said it before, you squeeze a couple of extra years out of this, that, and the next thing, you cold patch the parking lot. It's a nice building. It's a beautiful building. But we just can't seem, like, how many hall rentals did we have this past year, the year before?
COVID was pretty limited, there's no question.
Oh, COVID's there, but there were still halls getting rented even during COVID times.
Not many.
Well, there was still some, but still, I just know that to spend that kind of money,
But I think the point made that there's concern over the budget.
well, there has to be.
I think I think that is the main point. And the question is tonight, do we accept the budget as presented, or do we ask this to be re-examined? Dominique?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, I would say our circumstances are different this year because we haven't examined our own budget yet. So I agree that the expectation is greater than what we expected. But if we don't approve it right off the bat and then just go back, I would like to be better equipped and to defer this motion this evening. So I would move that we defer the approval of the budget until the time that the Budget Committee has had a chance to meet and discuss what is the real impact of what is being requested, what can we afford, so that we're in a position to respond back to the EECC board with a more informed position. To say, you propose this and you pass this, but this is what we can afford. And I feel like we're kind of feeling that this is not okay, but we don't have actual concrete details of what is the impact because we haven't looked at our budget yet. So I move to defer.
Mark, did you?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. You've been through enough elections. You probably heard about the complex every time you went around door to door. People just hate spending money on this thing. And we've had no luck trying to save anything. But we're the only ones that can do it. I think finally we're going to have to just make some hard choices and just slash it down to $300,000, $400,000 and live with it, because it's going to be a tough year for a lot of people. Like, everything is up. The farmers are just getting beat to death this year, and people with houses and gas and insurance. I think we got to say enough's enough. Let's make some hard choices. Let's not leave it for the next council, because they've been through this. You know, if you go through an election, you're going to hear the same thing at every doorstep. It costs too much money. And what are you going to do about it? You can't keep saying, well, it's running as efficiently as it can. Well, they're not going to buy that anymore. So that's my opinion. And I would vote to defer it, sure. I don't know what happens if we don't pass it. Do we go to arbitration?
Well, Adam will expand on that, but I think our first contact, if we defer it, we find problems in budget, then we need to go back with the complex and say, let's not go to arbitration. Can we find a common ground first? But because arbitration is kind of the last resort.
Sorry, yes, and through you, Your Worship, Councillor Widner, you're correct. The terms of reference between the town and the township for the EECC does require where both councils can't agree on a matter, it would go to an independent third party, such as an arbitrator, to make that decision.
But for the time being, I think I got a mover and seconder for deferral, Jaguar and Moore. And we'll certainly discuss this at our budget meeting, and then I know we're gonna have another complex meeting in April, and hopefully we can find a resolution of this before, instead of going to arbitration. So mover and seconder for deferral, all in favor? Carried. The only other thing I had under other business, there was a piece in the Elmer Express clarifying. I want to clarify about the sewage capacity and the future development in Springfield. it indicated that things were down the tubes as far as development goes, and that's not the case. We had Matt look into it, and we have in writing a guaranteed capacity of 208 units of sewage capacity in the lagoons. So we have 208 units that we could put in tomorrow and still be abiding with the contract. So it's not by any means down the tubes. It certainly, I think there's a shot across the bow by Elmer saying there is a limitation to what they will accept. But I want to make sure that everyone is aware that any development in Springfield is not down the tubes by any means, because we have room for 208. But I just want to clarify that. Max?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Let's take a journey back to about 1998. The sewage thing was being pushed down Springfield's throat. We had to go ahead with it. We had no alternative. The Ministry of Environment was knocking off homes 2 or 3 each day down through the main street of the village. But anyway, going back to that time, our mayor was Andy Van Castren. As we moved into 98 amalgamation. And in the beginning, we were looking at putting in our own sewage system. There was I won't say a plan, but there was investigation, I guess is the word, into putting in Springfield's own sewage plan, because Elmer at that time was hemming and hawing and hesitant with working with us. And I think if it hadn't have been for the police college, the situation there, that they were tied in to the Elmer lagoons. And the Ministry of Health, Peter North was our MPP at that time, and God bless him. He went to bat for us with the Ministry of Environment, and he got us a 90% grant in regards to putting the sewers in Springfield and also in Vienna at the time, and also went to bat with the ministry in regards to working with Elmer, or persuading Elmer, I guess is the best word, to give us capacity in the lagoons. But of course we had to replace or put new equipment in there, sand filters, etc., etc. And the capacity that Malahide was asking for, I think it was a residence of 1,200 or something. I could be mistaken, but I think that was the figure we had to give for, and the ratepayers of Springfield or Malahide or whatever, and our grant from the provincial government, we had to give the same capacity, build the same capacity that Springfield was being allowed. We had to give the same capacity to the town of Elmer. In other words, we paid for 2,500 people to use that lagoon. I don't think those folks give their head a shake. Probably they don't realize or whatever unless they get those agreements out, because, well, like I'm saying, that was 25 years ago. Yeah, it would be. But this went through. Well, there's been a hell of a lot of changes in council and people on both sides of the fence since that time. But keep that in mind. We did look into it. We had an option on some land at that time in regards to putting in our own sewage system. So that's an alternative that we could do again. Going to the south end of the village, in my opinion, if they're planning on putting in a sewage system, it should preferably go to the southeast due to prevailing winds. We get it in the southwest, a lot of our winds in the summer come out of the southwest. Where's that odorant from those going to come? I guess it would counteract the farm manure on the fields around us. But anyway, that's a thought to take forward. And as far as I'm concerned, I'm not about to back down for the town of Elmer.
Well, I think the town of Elmer should remember where the property is, or the lagoons property are located, so. But I did actually, I had Adam dig up our agreement with the town of Elmer when I saw that in the paper, and I was a little concerned, and I just wanted to clarify it. Anything else under other business, Rick?
Yeah, thank you. going back to speed and stuff like that. I got a call from a Village of Springfield resident complaining about the truck traffic again. And he was saying that when these trucks come into the village, they use their air brakes. And he said it's just a horrible sound, and they do it all the time. And this guy said his wife works at the St. Thomas Aquinas General Hospital in the emergency room. So she's on midnights and she comes home, and I mean, her shifts are long, I'm sure, especially through COVID, and she's trying to go to sleep, and you get this big truck rumbling in front of your house. So he was wondering if maybe we could put up some signs, you know, like avoid the use of air brakes. Every place has that, but in the entrance to the village, at least try to get something done there. So, because you know, there's no respect to somebody that's doing something like that. It's not good, and I feel sorry for these people that are working through a crisis, and then they get somebody just blows by there and doesn't give a damn and wakes them up from their sleep, and it's got to be tough. I think everybody knows what it's like to not get any sleep and have to go back to work for a 12 or a 14-hour shift. So I just wanted to note that and see if we could get staff to look into that.
I'm sure Matt can look into that and give us a report back. Jess?
Mayor Manel, if I may, the sign that we're talking about, I believe there is one at the top of the hill at Summers Corners before you go down. So would we not be able to put the same kind of sign on both ends of Springfield, or is it just the east and west end of Springfield that would need that sign?
Well, why don't we have Matt look into it and come back with a report?
Yeah. Because those jag brakes, they make a lot of noise. They're not hydraulic, they're motor, and that's like an old John Deere tractor.
So we'll leave it with you, Matt.
If I can just add through your worship, if I can request the locations that are being spoken about, because the township has one township-owned road entering Springfield, the rest are county road systems. So we would have to defer that matter to the county within their right-of-way, unless we're talking about the Pressy line entrance to Springfield.
Where are we looking at, Rick?
I don't know, he didn't say. I can't remember where they live.
Well, Rick will find out and get back.
I'll
to you.
find out, yeah, I can call him and I'll get back to you. I'll probably tomorrow.
Thank you. Councillor Cerna was complaining, I do believe, about the nurse or the attendant sleeping in the daytime. I've got complaints from people sleeping at 3 o'clock in the morning and 3:30, the same damn thing's going on. So it's pretty much a 24-hour-a-day ordeal. Now, if there's a truck study taken, I would like to see one. I don't know what's involved in it. And see the number of transports that's going and coming through the village. They come up through here, and thanks to our roads people, they've got a damn good route up Pressy Line from Tilsonburg into the village of Springfield. We're also going down to the corner of Putnam Road here and Ron McNeil. We have a trucking depot there. Now, it's my understanding that depot has been sold and possibly going to expand some more. So we've got trucks coming at us principally from the east, but of course those trucks go west, they turn around, they come back east, back to their depot. So I personally would like to see a count taken on if that's possible without a great expense, as to how many of those tractor trailers go through this village in 24 hours.
We'll leave that with Matt.
Through your worship, I can take that as staff direction when it comes to Pressy Line as we deal with the reconstruction design of that area. For anything direction-wise regarding the county road system, will require a resolution from Township Council to pass it on to the county.
Do we need a resolution to ask the county to do a, yeah, why don't we have a quick report next meeting, then you can make a recommendation to us.
Please, 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 not a 400-page report.
Okay, anything else under other business?
Yeah, just,
Mark?
thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just a point of interest. I see this week that the charter challenge failed. And the charter does stand. So hopefully this area can get back to normal because it's really going down. And it'd be nice to see people just start to be normal again. So hopefully they can be kind. Thank you.
Anything else under other business before the bylaws? Okay, mover and seconder, bylaw number 22-10 being a bylaw to authorize the execution of development agreement with Wendy D'Angelo relating to property in the village of Springfield described as lots 105 through 110 on Plan 78, known as 11789 Superior Street, begin a first, second, third reading, properly signed and sealed. Moore, Linsky, all in favor? Bylaw number 22-13 being bylaw to authorize the execution of agreement with the corporation of the town of Tillsonburg for the provision of fire communication services, begin a first, second, third reading, properly signed and sealed. Cerna, Widner, all in favor? And mover and seconder of the council moving to closed session at 8:55. Pursuant to section 239-2 of the Municipal Act 2001 as amended, discuss the following. 1, position plan, procedure, criteria, instruction to be applied to any negotiations to be carried on behalf of the municipality or local board. And 2, a local relations or employee negotiation matter relating to union staff complement. Mover and seconder, Widner, Cerna, all in favor, carried. Okay. So in regard to closed session, during the closed session, council provided directions to municipal staff regarding a position, plan, procedure, and criteria, instruction to be applied to any negotiations carried on or on behalf of the municipality of local boards, and there's nothing further to report. And number 2, during the closed session, council provided direction to municipal staff regarding the labor relations or employee negotiations matter relating to the union staff complement, and there's nothing further to report. Mover and seconder, bylaw number 22-12 being a confirmatory bylaw, be given a first, second, third reading and properly signed and sealed. Mover and seconder, Moore, Lewis, all in favor, opposed, carried. Mover and seconder of the council adjourn its meeting at 9:15. Meet again on March 17th at 7:30. Linsky and Widner, all in favor, carried.